Hi, this is Svetlana from Comic Cosplay, and today I'm going to show you how I'm building an epic blaster with 250 LEDs and completely made out of EVA foam. Gearbox and Gunfire Games asked me to create a cosplay from their upcoming game Remnant II. Remnant 2 is a Souls-like shooter which you can play solo or with two other friends, and it plays in a post-apocalyptic world, and I love post-apocalyptic worlds, and you can choose between like all kind of different classes with crazy skills. By the way, check out the game in the video description down below. And yeah, my choice was actually the crazy DPS master, the Gunslinger, because the Gunslinger looks like a really awesome cowboy and has a really cool style. I love it. And yeah, the Gunslinger can actually use like all kind of different blasters and rifles and pistols and all the crazy pew-pew things, and I thought it would be perfect because I was finally able to build a blaster again, and I chose the Merciless. And the Merciless Blaster actually has like a really weird designs with like bark and like vines everywhere, and also like crazy spooky eyes, and I thought it would be perfect. So in this video, you're actually going to see how I make everything completely out of EVA foam, install like a ton of lights, also add like a pew-pew sound effect, and also like a functional trigger, so it makes like the sound effect when I use the trigger. And in the next video, you're actually going to see how I make the full costume. But now, enough of talking, let's start crafting. Well, and here is the reference. The devs actually provided us with the original 3D model, and as you can see, the Merciless Blaster is incredibly cute. To get a good idea of the overall shape, Benni made a few screenshots and began drawing me a blueprint. He used here Adobe Illustrator, and as you can imagine, it took forever to do all the vines and swirly swirls. Once done, this was the result. Now to figure out the size, Benni printed me out a few different versions. I usually just pick the one that feels right at the end. At this point, I already had to plan the whole construction as well. The plan was to build in PVC pipes for additional stability, separate the blaster into two pieces so it would be easier to transport and also to craft, and to add here some space for the microchip and battery. Easy, right? Well, no, not at all. I just made already something similar in the past, so at least I knew it would work out at the end. But now it's finally time to craft. My choice of material was 10mm high density EVA foam from Cosplay Shop BE. Check out the link in the video description. I cut out 3 layers and already made some space for the upcoming PVC pipes. I just had to cut them into the right length and angle. Hope you enjoyed this high-end German engineering with foam, plastic pipes and hot glue so far. Next, I added a little gap for the trigger, covered 2 layers with contact cement and connected those first. For the trigger, I used a hinge lever switch which I found on Amazon. This one was covered with a ton of hot glue and then combined with an actual foam trigger. Finally, I was able to cover everything up and add the 3rd foam layer. Then it was time for the PVC pipes, which would make the blaster just much more rigid. I placed them with plenty of extra hot glue and then began preparing the front part of the prop. While these first steps might look a little bit boring, they actually required a lot of brain work and preparation. Finally, everything held together with a thinner PVC pipe and a few magnets super glued into them. Check out this video if you're curious how to make props detachable. It's super handy and I use it for most of my builds. As you can see, the trigger worked perfectly as well. Now I grabbed some foam clay and filled out the gaps. Added a 5mm foam layer on top and got this wonderful foam block as a result. As you know, this is supposed to be a blaster one day though. So time for some box cutter carving and Dremel sanding. And now finally, with all the foam cutting and dremeling and adjusting, the base was done and the fun could begin. So the plan was to light up this meaty area, the cute and spooky eyes, and to change the front a bit to add even more LEDs. To make everything work, I would add here some connection plugs, use digital RGB LED strips to program the light animation, and use those NeoPixel jewels from Adafruit for the eyes. The trigger will then change the color of the LEDs once pulled, and this little speaker will play a sound at the same time. Okay, but first some more Dremel fun. Sanding is actually not really that fun, but it's a great way to shape and texture foam the way you want. For this project, I added a bark-like look all over the blaster. As you can see, all I needed was just dremeling and some lines. It was also finally time to close off the battery box I prepared. So far, so good. Oh, and I forgot to mention my electronic setup, right? These days I'm using a prop maker feather wing and a feather M4 from Adafruit for most of my projects. The rest was a 4 ohm and 3 watt speaker and these lovely little switches. The LED strips are from Adafruit as well, by the way. Everything just needed a little code which would control the lights and sound. And this was the whole setup soldered together. So if I pressed this button, the LEDs became yellow and the speaker played the sound. Super cool, right? Just had to make some space for the speaker and attach it with the most important cosplay helper, hot glue. Yeah, it's a little bit big, but we'll fix this later. Hot glue here, hot glue there. And this is how the on and off switch work, by the way. Next step was to prepare the LED strips. As you can see, basically everything goes into this little gap within my foam. Also, highly recommend to wrap your chips to keep them safe. Now let's see if all that stuff really fits in. It's a little bit squishy, but we'll make it happen. Now on to the LED strip fun. Contact cement is totally enough to attach the strips onto the foam, but as you can imagine, this step takes quite a while. What really took forever though was soldering all strip parts together. For the eyes, I had to cut in some space first. The jewels had to be connected as well, and as you can see, I tried to work here really narrow and keep the wires as short as possible. Even the connection plugs were barely visible. I didn't have much space though, since I still had to cover everything with foam later. But you'll see it in just a few minutes. So happy. The first test was running and I didn't burn down my house. Yes, looked pretty good so far. However, LEDs are only awesome if they are properly diffused. A great material for this job is LED foam or Plastasode 45. It can be shaped by heat as well and was perfect to spread out the light evenly. For the meaty, glibbery looking part, I chose Wobbler crystal pellets. Working with them is a little bit tricky though. The material needs to be heated up first and is super sticky and hot once ready. I had to use here gloves, cold water, a silicone mat and baking paper. Everything to avoid it sticking onto anything. Once rolled out, I got a few around 3 mm thick pancakes. The material just cooled down too fast to make larger ones. So I cut out all parts into shape, heated them up again, connected them piece by piece, shaped them a bit and melted them into one large, wobbly and translucent bubble thing. You get the idea, right? This part gave me actually quite some headaches, but I was really happy with the result already. Now, let's repeat all these steps just with a larger piece. Minna! Okay, but now back to my LED foam. I hot glued the material from both sides on and got already a much better diffusion. A little bit more hot glue and the glibber bubble was mounted as well. And yes, you can still see the dots a bit, but we'll fix this later, don't worry. But my biggest issue was solved and I was super excited. Now the eyes got the same procedure. One layer of LED foam, a little bit of sculpting and a cute eyeball on top. Same for the front piece. Looks already much better with the diffused LEDs, right? Now it's finally time for the best part, foam clay sculpting. This material is just absolutely perfect to create organic shapes like vines and swirls. As you can imagine though, I had to spend days just with rolling clay sausages in all kinds of sizes.
Foam clay can be sculpted super easily and can be made sticky again with water. So it was totally doable to slowly build up the organic look, even though my work dried out overnight. Now you probably see why I gave the grey foam a texture before. It already looked so good. The speaker then got covered up with a little piece of plastic and it was time to finish the rest of the foam clay sculpt. After around 2 days of drying, it was time to Dremel in the final texture. And yes, it was dusty and messy, but the final result had a great level of detail and looked really organic and wood-like. Happy! I think the battery, switch and speaker were really well hidden as well. What do you say? Ready for painting? Oh, by the way, if you want to get into foam prop making as well, check out my shop on kamicosplay.com. I also have some books about electronics, painting for example. But now back to the Merciless Blaster, which got some coats of Flex Bond primer now. I applied 3 thick layers and began covering the foam parts with a dark brown acrylic paint. And yes, I enjoy the danger and that's why I wore a white top. Afterwards, it was time for Benni's painting magic. He is an amazing artist with steady fingers and a great feel for colors, shapes and details, and that's why he is finishing most of my projects. And Minna made sure he didn't mess up anything. After applying a brighter beige color, he also highlighted the texture I dremeled in previously. While everything was painted with acrylics before, Benni used oil paints for the translucent parts. These paints were just much smoother and didn't show any smears or brush strokes. The eyes were so cute. It wasn't easy at all though to create highlights and veins with these colors. But after days of painting, Benni could finally seal his work with matte spray varnish. However, I asked him to do the organic parts glibbery and shiny. Luckily this worked great with glossy brush-on varnish from Vallejo. Well, and that was it! The Merciless Blaster from Remnant II was finally done and I think it looks incredible. I absolutely love the lights and textures and Benni did such a great job with the painting. Oh, and here is already a sneak peek of the final costume. The lights and sound effects were just so cool in this place. Absolutely love the result.
Thanks so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed the whole video and the whole building process, because at least I did. I'm really proud how the Merciless Blaster turned out, and I admit doing this glowy glibbery thing was really challenging. I experimented with different materials and I'm really happy that the solution with the crystal art worked out at the end, and especially those eyes are so cute. So I really hope you liked the video and maybe it inspires you to create something similar yourself, because EVA foam and LEDs are just amazing and really fun to play around with. And yeah, as always, if you have any questions, please write me a comment down below, and if you don't know what to write, just write on Corgi. Join the Corgi squad and support us with the YouTube algorithm. Also, thanks so much to Gearbox and Gunfire Games and Remnant II for this amazing project. I'm super excited for the game, especially because it has all 5 more really cool blasters and everything, and I want to see them all, and the game just looks amazing. So check out the link in the video description. I promise you, you will see the rest of the costume in the next video, the full Gunslinger costume. It will look awesome. I'm really excited. And until then, please as always, like and subscribe, hit the notification bell so you don't miss this video, and see you very soon in the next crafting video. Pew pew pew! Bye bye!